This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Appreciate some of Mike Irwin's time on a Monday morning here on Halftime. Of course, Mike covering all things Razorback for the Pig Trail Nation. Mike, pretty impressive performance on Saturday, I thought, especially that, there really aren't like secrets with this Arkansas offense. There might be fakes here and there, cross them up with the way you call a play, but you just have the sense opponents should know the way Arkansas is going to attack them. But Cincinnati couldn't stop them on the ground. Carolina couldn't stop them on the ground. And, boy, it's just imposing your will. It's pretty impressive, don't you think?
Yeah, well, at least it was it was pretty much balanced last week. There was no balance here. I think what happened, they looked at the 200 yards that Georgia State rushed for against South Carolina. When if they can do that, what can we do? And we found out they went for almost 300 yards. And you're right. When you have over 60 offensive rushes in a game, when you run the ball over 60 times, the other team knows what you're doing. It generally makes it much harder, but for the most part, they just had their way. I think it's a sign. What we haven't seen yet, I think, is what this team can do through the air. They're going to have opponents that are going to just line up and say, we're going to stop your run. We're going to force you to throw because we think your run is your strength. And I think they're going to find out this team has another gear when they decide to pass because Jefferson is a better passer. His passing numbers are, he hasn't thrown a lot, but he has no interceptions. He's had no turnovers. His QBR rating continues to be up into the low 80s. And so I think when he has to, he can cut loose, and I think they've got a lot of receivers, and I think somebody's fixing to find that out at some point. When they line up to stop the run, they're going to find out this team can pass too.
Chuck brought this up in postgame on Saturday. He's such a smart decision maker, but I think sometimes we think about the decisions a quarterback makes as to, where he's trying to throw the ball, what window he's trying to fit it into, how he goes through his progressions, and if it's not there to, take it down and run with it. But there's another dimension in this when it comes to the RPO. And like KJ is a really smart decision maker at delaying, when he's going to hand the ball off or keep it himself. We saw that quite often against South Carolina. I think his decision making goes so much deeper than just how or when or who he throws the football to, because this RPO has been very effective. It was last year. 2 games into this season, it's effective too, and that's because of the quarterback's decision making.
Yeah, he delays that, like you say, and then that puts more pressure on the defense. They're still not sure. He disguises it very well. Sometimes even the running back not sure what's going to happen there. He has really settled in. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year, not just the SEC. He seems to be getting, and he did this last year. He got more comfortable as he got farther into the season. So, so far so good. We're 2 games into this thing, and when you looked at it back in middle of the summer, even August, you're thinking, man, those first 2 weeks, you got to get through those first 2 weeks. Then maybe you have a little bit of a break. Then you're hit 2 really tough games, maybe 3 if you consider BYU. So they've kind of gone up 1 step. I think it'll be a breather this week, and then you got to go up 3 more big steps. So the screws are turning, and they got to be envying some of these teams that are playing nobody right now, just cruising along and, playing mid-majors. Arkansas finally gets to play one this week.
Rocket as the lead running back. And it kind of went into Saturday, wondering if Dominique Johnson would dress, and then if he did, how involved in the offense he would get. And Coach Pittman last week basically said it was a decision that was up to Neek. He's healthy, he can play. It's all a matter of if he feels ready mentally, emotionally. When these knee injuries aren't just about the knee, it's also about, how you view your body at that very moment and whether you can use it at 100%. So I kind of wonder about, Neek's availability moving forward. And if he doesn't play for a while, Rocket Sanders looks every bit the number 1 running back, and I think there were times he did last year, but so did Neek. But when I watch Rocket run, he's patient, he's hitting the hole, He doesn't look like a guy who was a wide receiver that's still learning to play the position.
Well, I had one of my Ask Mike questions last week. The guy said he looked like to me he was avoiding contact in that Cincinnati game, and was that a problem? And I'm like, well, I didn't see that myself, and you certainly didn't see it this week. He didn't avoid contact in this game. He was bowling people over. He's just he's settled in. He's leading the SEC in rushing right now. And, you know, they've got other people. They don't have to play Dominic Johnson. They don't. I mean, the two guys they got behind Rocket are looking good when they come in the game. So, I mean, that's just a very talented room. I think they've got options there. I think they're in a good position where if you were to get an injury among any of those guys in that room, you've got other people available. It's just a wealth of depth in there that you always want. And sometimes that's the difference between a really good season and maybe a one where you look back and say, boy, if we didn't have that injury, man, look what we could have done.
Well, what do you make of Arkansas defensively in these first 2 weeks? I'm not looking at it this way, but we get texts and calls, and you can see it on boards and social media. There's been a yeah, but about the defense in each of the first two games. Yeah, but in Cincinnati, you had receivers running free in the secondary. Yeah, but against South Carolina, Spencer Rattler threw for 376 yards. The defense is making plays, though. I mean, on all three levels, too, including the secondary, which is really where I think fans are trying to complain a little bit about the defensive performance. But what do you make out of what you've seen on the other side of the football? We've talked offense these first few minutes.
Yeah, if you looked at this team overall and said, where is a weak spot, that would be the only place you could look. And then you would say, well, you know, they lost those two guys. Well, one of those two guys is back, going to be back. So I think that problem, some of that is mental, I think, with a lot of the fans. They go, oh, we lost those guys. Oh, there's a problem here. 376 yards he threw for, but one touchdown, and his QBR rating was 54.6. He didn't exactly tear Arkansas up. They just kind of gained a lot of yards throwing it. I thought the issue this week, honestly, wasn't so much pass coverage, but tackling. When you go back and look, the guys in the secondary missed some tackles that caused some issues, but I think that's correctable. I also think that Brini is a guy, when you look at Catalon being gone, you just, once again, look at Sam Pittman in the portal and look what he did. He goes and gets a guy that had started like 9, 10, 11 games for the national champions last year. As Sam Pittman pointed out, you don't do that if you don't have ability. I think Brini's issue is he's learning this system. It's new for him. After the game, he gave a lot of credit to Catalon for helping him when he got here. And basically he said, at some point, he just said to me, you are the last guy back there. There are no excuses back there. It's you. You know, you have to live up to that. And I think what we're going to see as we get further into this season, we're going to see that kid's talent come out. Because, again, Georgia does not start a guy that many games who doesn't have ability. And I think we're going to end up fans are going to be very lucky that he transferred in, because he plugs a hole that might have been very leaky if he wasn't there.
Mm. Now, Mike, since we've learned the severity of Catalon's injury, that it'll be out all season due to the surgery with the shoulder and everything, what does his future look like? I mean, I think he still has another year of eligibility left. Do we see him in a Razorback uniform again?
Jeez, I don't know. That's such a difficult. You'd have to. One thing Sam Pittman did say was they told him, go get away from the team, take a break, because he's so depressed right now. So we don't want you to be around here, because that's going to make you even more depressed. When you feel like you can deal with it, we'll bring you back in here and you can be around the team. But I don't have a clue what he would do. There's two lines of thinking on that. One of them is, hey, I don't want to risk another injury, because that might be it for me. Won't even get drafted. So there's that. But on the other hand, he might say, look, I still got to come back and prove myself to increase my draft potential. So I'm not sure what he would do. I wouldn't want to be in that position. I think it's a very, very difficult thing that he's going to have to decide once he heals from this injury.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a tough decision for sure, and one that I think everyone wishes he didn't have to make right now. Wishing that he would have stayed a lot healthier this season. But Mike, staying with the defense, Drew Sanders had, I think, a really, really good game, breakout game for him. Looking at the linebacker position with Drew and Bumper, and I know it's only 2 games in, but would you put them on par or maybe even pass the tandem of Bumper and Grant Morgan from last year?
Absolutely. I mean, they're off to a terrific start, and then you've got Pooh Paul back there, who's this guy, I'm telling you, is coming on. So what did they have last year? They had a 3-man rotation last year, and now it looks like they've got that again. So that's the most solid position on the defense. I mean, I don't know that Arkansas has ever had. We got to get into this season but with those 3 guys, this may be the best you've had. Because Bumper Pool's all over the place, but my goodness, this kid from Alabama is just. I know Nick Saban has made a statement that if he didn't transfer, he would be starting for them now, and he's probably regretting that the kid got away. Watching what he's doing. Again, Sam Pittman's trying to build this into an SEC championship type team, and you have to. If you're just doing it through recruiting of high school players, it slows down the process. But he's accelerated this thing by going and getting good players away from other SEC teams and making this team better because of it.
That means there'll be more on the way. If it works for Drew Sanders, if it works for Latavius Brini, if it works for Landon Jackson, all SEC players that transferred to Arkansas, if it worked for them, and again, it's 2 games in, we've got to throw that in there, but that means, they'll theoretically be more on the way, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, word gets around. These guys look at what happens, man, and you transfer there, you're going to, it's not going to be one of those dead-end deals where you transfer in and you sit. So, absolutely. And then I think the thing you have to really think about is Sam's, I don't know if it's just him, what he does with his assistant coaches involved in this process, but they just don't seem to be taking guys that somehow they end up not needing, which is happening at a lot of schools. We're seeing a lot of guys transfer, and then all of a sudden, we just kind of brought you in here as insurance, and we don't really need you, so, yeah, sit on the bench. That's why you transferred in the first place, and now you're going to be on our bench. We haven't seen that, from these guys that transfer in here, and that word gets around too. So, yeah, success breeds more success.
All right, Mike, last thing, and we'll let you go. When this game was scheduled, Arkansas, Missouri State, you're like, oh boy, it's a couple years away. Maybe Petrino will be the head coach there still. Maybe he won't. Well, he is. There's a game on the field on Saturday, Mike, but there's also, Bobby Petrino is coming back. This is kind of a story unto itself.
Oh, it is. There's a rumor going around, and I called over there today. The people at the athletic department claim not to know anything about it, but the rumor is that the students en masse are going to show up wearing neck braces, like that photo that Petrino had, where he's got the little neck brace around him. So I essentially called over there to find out, hey, if they do that, are you guys going to make them take it off? Are you going to let them go in there and wear that or what? And I don't know what they would do. My guess is that if Pittman was aware of that, since he's not one of those kind of guys that, believes in that kind of stuff, maybe he would say, no, we don't want that. But on the other hand, it's kind of funny. So do I think that it would motivate Missouri State players because you're making fun of their coach? Not to the point where I think Arkansas loses. So you don't want to be a stick in the mud and say it's a bad idea. I don't know if it'll happen or not. I think it'd be kind of funny if it does happen.
Well, I would laugh, that's for sure. And I think a number of other people would too, including you, which we always appreciate you joining us, Mike, on these Mondays. Thanks so much.
Okay, see you.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation. Throwing the rumor around there, and he put on his old style press hat. dial up the athletic department to get a little.
Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.